They linger in a perpetual dream state, a nightmare from which they cannot wake.
Are you the Keymaster?
Run to the light, Caroline! Run as fast as you can!
I've never sensed anything like it.
The Green-Faced Demon. The following is one of my earliest memories of the paranormal. A vague memory, but still there it is, lingering. My sister Tiff and I were at my grandparents' house, where my Uncle Richard was babysitting us. He was the second youngest of 6 sons. Also watching us was our Aunt Fanya, the youngest of 5 daughters. It was the mid-80s. I had just turned 3 and my sister was about to turn 4. My grandparents were out that night, playing bingo no doubt. It was one of their favorite pastimes. My grandmother was a homemaker and my papa worked the old Peabody coal mines. She was a great storyteller and a great influence in my life. She raised 10 children, and as the youngest 2 were working their way out of their high school years, they had settled down. Another favorite pastime was cooking and singing. My grandfather, along with most of my aunts and uncles, would spend their spare time singing and playing music, guitars, harmonicas, a banjo here and there. I grew up in the midst of music. The founder of bluegrass music, Bill Monroe, was born and raised not far from where we all lived. Their house was a yellow 2-story country-style home with a porch that wrapped halfway around the whole house. It was perched atop a hill with hayfields along the property's edge next to the woods on one side and a road on the other. It was a beautiful home, but still carried an essence of creepiness. It was once a funeral home and still had the dirt held by a concrete block half-wall in the basement which once housed the crematorium. After that it was a doctor's office with the crematorium removed, and it then was later converted into a single-family home. That night didn't seem anything out of the ordinary. They often watched us when our mother had errands or just needed a break from time to time. You see, our mom had us when she was kind of young, and no one could blame her if she needed a few nights off every once in a while. As a single mother at such a young age, she deserved a break here and there. It was midsummer at nightfall and it was still pretty warm out, so they had the windows and doors open and 2 box fans blowing, one at each end of the house in front of the front and back doors. I remember this, because I would run back and forth between the 2, pressing my lips against the fan grates and crying out, making different sounds. It would tickle my lips and make a most fascinating sound to my hard of hearing ears. You see, at that time no one realized it, but I could hardly hear a thing. Unbeknown to anyone at the time, I had swollen adenoids that put pressure on my ear canals, causing me to be very hard of hearing. This would later result in their removal of my adenoids and the placement of tubes in my ears. Early on this caused me to develop speech issues. I believe the music they played is what inevitably saved me from total dumbness. I was never sure how to exactly to pronounce words, and sometimes I would see people looking at me and their mouths moving, but no sound. I can remember them playing music and it was just that to my ears, music. I loved when they played guitars and sung along, a mix of country, bluegrass, rock, occasional Guns N' Roses, followed by a Hank Williams Jr. They had great taste and awesome talents. As for me, I could talk, but one would have to be very patient and really focus on what I was trying to say to them for them to get it. It was so aggravating at times. I didn't realize at that age that there was anything wrong. I assumed it was normal. I also assumed that nobody ever wanted to hear what I had to say to them. This sound coming from these fans was different in a way I cannot really describe. They added almost visual vibration to the sound. I could close my eyes and depending on the tone of my voice they would appear as different colors and different patterns. It was somehow easier for me to hear it in this way. After wearing myself out from running back and forth, I went a plop down in front of my grandparents' floor model TV, beside my sister, who had been playing with a green stuffed glowworm that had a green nightcap on and would glow when you hugged it. Of course it was hugged tight in her left arm, all lit up as she gazed at the TV. Wheel of Fortune was on and Tiffany loved Vanna White. Probably because of her pretty dresses she would wear that would glimmer like sequins. Fanya was laying on the couch with her feet crisscrossed and her hands behind her head, staring too, at the TV. I sat so close to the TV to try to hear it better that my short legs would touch the base. It had two knocker handles along the front base and I would knock them over and over again with my feet while sitting there. It would drive them all crazy. I don't or didn't know why at the time, but it was loud. I was oblivious. I finally heard Fanya yell, telling me to please stop. I was interrupting the show. I had no clue. So, not being able to sit still as I am still today, I got up and started running around the house again. Then my uncle comes in the house with a 12-inch gray, double-headed dragon figurine made of rubber. He said, "Look shithead, I got you something, you can have it but only after I'm done painting it." Okay. I recall nodding my head the entire time as he walked past me and into the basement to paint my dragon. I tried to follow but he stopped right at the door of the basement and said, "You stay up here, bonehead, you're not allowed on these steps." With a wild laugh and his famous grin, he closed the door behind him. Fanya then sat my sister and I at the table and fed us dinner. It was leftover spaghetti. My favorite. We made a huge mess of it, as small children do, so she then put us in the tub. After drying us and getting us dressed, it was time for bed. We slept in her bed with her. That night I had a dream of a bad man, is the only way I can describe the creature. He had a green face and would chase us from room to room all night, but he seemed to be stuck in the walls of the house. I remember waking up while Fanya and Richard were getting ready for school every morning, feeling so tired from running from the green-faced man all night and being terrified of it or him or whatever this was. I would try my best to tell Fanya, Richard, my sister, anybody who would try and listen about this dream. But unfortunately I was incapable with my speech impediment. No one could understand me, especially when I was excited or nervous or scared even. The next few nights I would have the exact same dream. No one could understand me when I tried to tell them about it. It seemed to be of the utmost importance to me at that time, and I can remember feeling so annoyed that no one could understand me or just didn't want to listen.